Welcome back to the Andrew and Ian Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here again with Ian. Hi, Ian. It's just another Thursday, just back to the normal week for us. But how you doing tonight, man?
Doing good right now. We'll see how the night goes with the Lions game, but as of right now, not too bad.
Yeah, and that is what we call a nice segue. Let's get right into it with the Lions here. Thursday night football hosting the Packers. So interesting to note about this matchup is the last four games between these two teams, the road team has won. Um, so just a little bit of interesting stat there. Right now, it's 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Lions up 7-0 right now. Doing a good job with the dead body of Jamal Adams playing linebacker in this game, and a ragtag team of linebackers and defensive line, because 13 guys just on the defense alone on IR this week, and four more that aren't on IR that are just out of this game. So that's 17 either starters or depth pieces out this week for the Lions, and they grabbed a ton of people off the streets pretty much to play in this game. And like I said, they got Jamal Adams, a safety in his own right, playing linebacker because they are just that low on bodies in that linebacker room. But anyways, the Lions came into this game tonight as a 3.5 point favorite. It's a must-win game for the Lions. They win this game, they get, not only do they keep the tiebreaker over Green Bay in the division, but they also get a tiebreaker over Philadelphia for the number one seed in the NFC, and that is extremely important, especially for this Lions team, because they are beat up. They could use a bye more than anyone in this league right now. Like I said, 13 guys just on the defense alone on IR, and they're missing a bunch of guys on offense too. So that said, I am picking the Lions tonight. I think they are, at least the offense can keep them in this game. Um, and I think they're gritty. I am going to have Green Bay cover that 3.5, though. I think Lions win this by a field goal. I'd be very surprised if they win this by more than three, just because, again, this defense is beat up really, really bad. So yeah, Lions win, just no cover here.
Yeah, you did a pretty good job of summarizing pretty much everything that I had. Yeah, big point of emphasis, like you said, is the defense has 13 players, not just injured, just on IR. So they're out for weeks, guaranteed. And it's been this way since pretty much when the first domino fell in Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions defense has been dropping like flies every week, and yet here we are. They're still 11-1. So I'm in the same boat as you. I think the Lions win this one. It's gonna be a boat race at the end of the day. These are two really good offenses, and I think the Lions offense is gonna do just enough. I was joking, pre-show about, Jake Bates is gonna kick a 60-yarder to win it. I don't know about 60 yards, but I could see him kicking a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, and I think that's completely how it's going to go. Is the Lions win this off of a field goal at the end of the game. Also, uh, it's not just those guys that are hurt on defense. Yes, the defense is more hurt than the offense, but there's guys missing. I mean, Taylor Decker's not playing tonight either for the Lions, and that's huge because he's one of the best left tackles in all of football. So, yeah, it definitely hurts this Lions team a lot. But if you told me, if you put out if you wrote up like some contract or whatever the fuck, you said you can win tonight, but you have to lose to Buffalo next week, I would sign that 10 times out of 10, because losing to Buffalo in the regular season has no effect on the Lions and seeding. So I would gladly take that. Um,
I'm with you there because the Lions also don't lose back-to-back games, and who do they have the week after Buffalo? None other than San Francisco. And let me beat up on San Francisco while they're down.
yeah, and well, that's going to be a tough matchup too. I think just because of all the injuries, but San Fran's also beat up. So, anyways, moving on to Sunday, we got the Giants hosting the Saints. The Saints a 4 point favorite in this game, and yeah, I think for New York, it is just tank season for them. They don't care. I mean, they have their third string quarterback in. They benched fucking Danny DeVito, Tommy DeVito. Uh, I always call him Danny DeVito because Anyways, but look, Saints are beat up too. They're out Taysom Hill, I believe, in this game. Uh, so it's gonna be a big problem. Obviously, they're down Chris Olave. Um, so that's huge. I am going to take the Saints to win and cover that 4. I think they win this by a touchdown. I mean, I would not be surprised if they don't cover it, but I think the Saints overall just a better team than the Giants are. And again, for the Giants, I just don't think they care anymore.
That's probably the best way to put it for the Giants. They're in full on tank mode at this point. They actually have competition for the first overall draft pick, and a lot of them are coming from the AFC right now. But the Saints, they started off really hot to start the season, and we know their offense is capable of putting up points. So I'm going to roll with the Saints this week, and I think they're really going to start leaning on Alvin Kamara again, especially with Taysom Hill being out. And I don't know if he was put on IR, but he's missing some time, and that's a big loss because they would use Taysom Hill, in goal to go situations when Alvin Kamara just didn't, get the push they needed, and they would alternate them. And now you can't do that, so they're going to be relying on Kamara heavily now.
Yeah, I think they will rely on him heavily, and like I said, too, they're missing Chris Olave, and that hurts. That's your number one target gone, and now basically your number two target in Taysom Hill gone as well. The Steelers will host the Browns. The Steelers, a 6.5 point favorite in this game. This to me almost seems like a trap game for the Steelers, coming off a really, really, really nice win in against Cincinnati in Cincinnati, and 2 weeks ago, these teams played each other in Cleveland, and the Browns won that game. For the Steelers, this is almost a must-win game because Baltimore's chomping at the bit. Yes, Baltimore just had a really, really bad loss this past weekend against an NFC team, so it's not really that doesn't really matter all too much. But for the Steelers, I believe this gets them a tiebreaker over the Ravens if they win this game. I think the Steelers are a better team, but the Browns have been pretty solid the last few weeks as well. So I'm going to take the Browns in an upset win here in Pittsburgh. Honestly, I just don't have faith to see the Steelers' offense put up that sort of a performance in back-to-back weeks. But yeah, I just the Browns are just they're doing a lot of great things recently, and it's like, well, maybe Watson was the problem for this Browns team, but yeah, I'm gonna take the Browns to get the upset win here.
You know, if I didn't see this game being played 2 weeks ago, as in, the first of their two matchups, I would have called you crazy right then and there. I would have stopped you, mid take as soon as you said the Browns were winning. But like you said, the Browns have been playing Superman ball against the AFC North right now, and they're playing seeding killer right now. They beat the Ravens, and the Ravens are watching Justin Tucker collapse in real time, and so is their defense, and the Steelers are, you know, still kind of like the Iowa of the NFL. They can score points sometimes, you know, and like we saw against the Bengals, the Bengals have a bad defense, so of course they were able to put 44 points up. But, it's not often that they do. At the end of the day, the last time these teams played, Jameis Winston put on a show. And that defense didn't do enough for me for Pittsburgh to really cement them as, this is their division now, 100%. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this one. I think they split with pretty much everyone into the division that's not Cincinnati. But I'm not shocked if the Browns win this one either. They're playing really good, and They could steal it. They're not going to go to the playoffs, I don't think, but they could definitely ruin some people's playoff seeding chances.
Yeah, they definitely can. So yeah, the Vikings will host the Falcons. The Vikings a 5.5 point favorite in this game. Look, the Falcons they've been not good in recent weeks, to say the least. I believe they're on like a 3 game losing streak now, something like that. They're 6-6, and they were, I believe, like 6-3 or something. I don't know exactly, and I don't care to bother looking right now. But look, the Vikings have sort of come back down to earth. Sam Darnold definitely has come back down to earth, and I think that's gonna stay the same here. 5.5 points at home against a team that is struggling kind of makes you wonder. I'm also going to go with the upset win here. I'm going to go with Atlanta to help themselves get back into the division fight. Yes, they do have that tiebreaker over Tampa Bay, but they need some NFC wins, and I think they can get that against this Vikings team that is honestly I don't think any good. And also you can't win Super Bowls with a redhead quarterback anyway. So yeah, fuck Minnesota.
Yeah, I didn't know that redhead quarterback thing was a thing. I don't know if it's actually a thing or not, if you're just talking
No,
out your
no,
ass,
no.
but
I cannot think of a single redhead quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl.
I mean, I'm not going to go back through all the history to do that, but at the end of the day, this is a game where I'm not really a big like oh, stats say this number, this number, this number, it's a weird line for me. Minnesota, to me, on paper right now, is clearly a better team and is playing better than Atlanta. So that 5.5 is suspicious to me, and I'm also going to roll with Atlanta in this one. I'm losing confidence a little bit in Minnesota. Their defense is good, but the offense is shaky at best. And with Sam Darnold, how long are you going to ride him till the wheels completely fall off the cart?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? With Sam Darnold is you don't know. And yes, this defense for Minnesota is good, but they get a little too blitz happy in games, and it hurts them. And that's part of why they have 2 losses on the year is they got a little too aggressive defensively. Brian Flores, while he's a great defensive mind, he gets blitz happy sometimes, and it puts them in bad situations. And if he didn't get blitz happy in those 2 games that they lost, especially that Lions game, I think they win both those games. They could be easily looking at a 12-0 season right now. Um, but also, Sam Darnold, he does a lot of stupid things. So I think that just in my mind, I think the Vikings should be realistically like a 7 or 8 point favorite in this game, and they're not. So I have to go with the Vikings there. The Bucks host the Raiders. The Bucks a 6.5 point favorite in this game. Tampa obviously struggled for a few weeks, but they're on the come up, and they're gonna need as many wins as they possibly can because again, Atlanta has 2 wins over them in the division this year. They're hoping for some more Atlanta losses. This is a spot for the Buccaneers to really get themselves into this division fight. They're going to need a lot of luck with Atlanta losing games, but this is a really bad Raiders team. Offensively, they can't do anything. Defensively, the only bright spot is Max Crosby. I'm gonna take the Bucks to win. I think they cover that 6.5, no problem. Baker's been playing out of his mind the last 2 or 3 games now, and it's helped them get back to a 500 record when they were below 500 just a couple weeks ago. So yeah, give me the Bucks to win and cover that 6.5.
There's not really much for me to say about this game other than give me the Bucks to win and cover. The Raiders are bad, and the Bucks have been playing really well since, shocker, Mike Evans came back. So I'm looking at the Bucks, like you said, to start covering ground back, or maybe even take the lead in the NFC South. Should Atlanta lose and they win this weekend?
The Eagles host the Panthers. The Eagles, a 13.5 point favorite. Eagles come into this game with the number one defense in the league. Uh, and they have been really, really great on both sides of the ball since Nick Sirianni got that stupid ass haircut that he has now. Um, I don't think the haircut has anything to do with it, but I just think the way they've been coached the last few weeks, especially on that defensive side of the football, they have done some really, really nice things. The Panthers come into this game playing well. They haven't been winning games, but Bryce Young, the last 2 weeks, has looked actually like a competent quarterback. Uh, the Panthers obviously still they just don't have a lot of talent around both Bryce Young and just nothing on that defensive side of the ball as well. I'm going to roll with the Eagles to win here. They're going to keep themselves in this NFC number one seed hunt with the Lions. And obviously they're praying for the Lions to lose tonight. I just don't think that's going to happen, but whatever. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles to win and cover. I just don't think the Panthers have, like I said, the talent to keep up with this Eagles team at all. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I think it boils down to. Eagles, I think, have the most talented team in the league, just in terms of raw talent at every single spot, and they're one of the healthiest teams out in the league as well. So, yeah, give me the Eagles to win and cover.
It's it's a very valid point there about how the Eagles are one of the most talented, if not the most talented, at every position just on paper, and they're also one of the healthiest. I know they just had someone on their team go out. I don't remember who it was exactly. They went out for the year, but you're not seeing many injuries come out from Philly, and it's not really hindering them at all. And sure, their defense may have been a little suspect to start, and they were a little, maybe been on fraud watch, through the first 5 weeks of the season. But since, like you said, number one defense now in the league, and Saquon Barkley is, you know, Clark Kent in disguise, I guess. That man is Superman on the field. What he does, on a weekly basis, it's like a better version of Derrick Henry in Baltimore. It doesn't matter if he doesn't rush for 100 yards; he'll do enough scoring wise to make up for that. So I'm gonna roll with the Eagles to win and cover, but don't sleep on Carolina. They they almost beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs got a really good defense.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. The Chiefs do have a really good defense, and also, like I said, Bryce Young has turned it around, especially the last 2 or 3 weeks now, where he's putting up very solid numbers. And you like to see that. We still joke about him being 2 feet shorter than his entire offensive line, but uh, I don't sleep on him. But I just don't see him winning this game. Toilet bowl of the week: Titans hosting the Jags. Titans, a 3.5 point favorite in this game. The Titans coming into this game with the number 2 rated defense in the league, but the offense blows. That said, Jacksonville, they don't have a top 10 defense. They don't have a top 10 offense. They are just miserable. And if I remember correctly, I don't think Trevor Lawrence will be playing in this game. Yes, I am right. He is on IR, so they're down. Really, their only good player offensively. I mean, yes, you have ETN, but nah. That doesn't matter when you have Mac Jones as your quarterback. Give me the Titans to win. I think they cover that 3.5 as well. I think the Titans defense, you know, is obviously very, very good, and I think that they'll be able to shut down this Jags offense, especially with Mac Jones starting at quarterback. So yeah, give me the Titans win and cover.
I've said it before this season. I'm going out on that limb again. This is gonna be a tie. You thought the Giants and the Saints was a toilet bowl? Both of these teams are in competition with the Giants for that first overall pick. That's how bad of a matchup this is. And thank God it's a 1 o'clock game because I would not stand to watch this, after 1 o'clock. This is a terrible game. I mean, I'm not expecting much of anything. Maybe a few memes from Will Levis or two, but at the end of the day, I think it could be a tie. I'm not really confident in either of these teams to win these games. And like you said, if the Jaguars weren't missing Trevor Lawrence, it might be a different story for them.
Yeah, I think it would be a big, big difference if Trevor Lawrence was in this game, but ultimately, I think you know, with him out, I think this is just a win for the Titans. I don't think this even goes to overtime. The Dolphins will host the Jets. The Dolphins, a 5.5 point favorite in this game. You wouldn't think so, especially the way they've been playing the last few weeks. Especially since Tua has come back. 5.5 points. That's the devil's number, right? Normally, I would take the underdog to win, but I'm gonna take Miami to win here. I think we've seen the Jets, especially on the defensive side of the ball, regress since firing Robert Saleh, and I think that's going to continue. Dolphins are still, looking for a wild card spot right now, and they're actually, when I discussed on Tuesday, they are one of the three teams that could have a losing record and be a wild card team in the AFC this year. So be on the lookout for that. But the Jets, they're just not good. Aaron Rodgers is very, very, very washed, and I just think the Dolphins they need to start winning games, and this Jets team, like I said, isn't good. So give me the Dolphins to win and cover that 5.5.
You said it. The Jets are not good. Robert Saleh being fired made this team worse somehow. Aaron Rodgers is not much of an upgrade above Zach Wilson, if at all. So give me the Dolphins to win and cover. This is Tua, since he's been coming back, or since he came back from a concussion, he's been him. He's been balling out, and I don't think I've seen him make a stupid play like he did when he after he threw the pick and decided to jump at the dude's knee. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna roll with the Dolphins and they'll win and cover because this is a bad Jets team and this is a Dolphins team that they might be under 500 and in the playoffs, like you said, but they have the potential to get over 500, and this is one of those games that's gonna help them.
Next, we have the Cardinals hosting the Seahawks. The Cardinals, a 2.5 point favorite in this game. The Cardinals needing a win here to take back the division lead over Seattle. I think this game really hinges on what version of Kyler Murray do you get. The last, really this whole season it's kind of been like 1 week he's great, the next week he's like meh, and then it's just after that it's like he'll go back to being great and then he'll be back to playing like shit again. So it's like, what version of Kyler Murray are you going to get? Now, last time these two teams faced was 2 weeks ago. Seattle winning that game at home, 16-6. I think it's going to be a different story this week. I think the Cardinals will win. I think they will cover that 2.5. I think Kyler Murray is going to have a good game, and because he didn't have the greatest game last week against Minnesota, he didn't have a great game either. I think he's due for a good game this week, and it's at home, so I think that gives Arizona a big advantage. So yeah, give me the Cardinals to win and cover.
You said it depends on what version of Kyler Murray you get, but at the same time, it also depends on what version the Seahawks get of Geno Smith. As of right now, we're looking at Jameis Winston. He's at 13 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Now, he's not going to throw 17 touchdowns and 18 interceptions to end the year, but we're looking at someone who could still have, over 15 touchdowns and over 15 picks. And like I said, be a diet Jameis Winston. And in the playoffs, that's not going to get you anywhere for Seattle. And for Kyler Murray, he at least has the benefit of having the exact same amount of touchdowns as Geno Smith and half the interceptions. So, like you said, it depends on how these quarterbacks play for both teams. And I'm looking at Kyler Murray to have a little bit of a better game and again get Arizona back onto the top of that division, and they could very well steal it from that point on.
Yeah, I think they could very well win this division title, and I think they are just an overall better team. But also get fucking Marvin Harrison Jr. involved in the fucking play for fuck's sake. Just please throw him the ball. He will make plays. He's shown it this year, but you still don't throw to him. If you throw to him more, Arizona wins this no problem. The Rams host the Bills. The Bills, a 3.5 point favorite in this one. The Bills are one of the best teams in football right now, plain and simple. I think, honestly, they are the best team in football right now over our Lions because, one, they're healthy, and two, they're just playing really, really good football. Josh Allen, to me, is the MVP favorite right now. He certainly would have my vote if I was a MVP voter because he's just been playing out of his mind. Now, yes, he's been throwing a lot more interceptions lately because obviously he started the year, I think, like 8 or 9 games without an interception. But I don't think that really, really matters. This Rams secondary doesn't really get a whole lot of interceptions. And, this Rams team, they're not. They're playing a little bit below how they should be. The record shows, they're a 6-6 team. They could be a better team than 6-6, but they're just not playing that well. Cooper Kupp had an abysmal game last week. He just did not look good at all. I'm going to roll with the Bills to win here. I am going to roll with them to cover. It's LA. They don't have a home field advantage because nobody in LA gives a shit about football. So yeah, give me the Bills to win. Give me the Bills to cover. Home field advantage doesn't matter for the Rams, like I said. And I think, yeah, just the Bills. They're just such a good team this year. And they're just rolling. And Josh Allen's going to have a fucking field day against this Rams defense.
I agree with you for the most part. My issue is the Bills are too good of a team here, and I don't think the Rams are really comparative to them enough to warrant only being 3.5 point dogs. That's a little suspicious to me. It's not enough for me to say I'm going to take the Rams in this one, but I'm going to watch for the Rams to potentially play this one up a little bit. I'm going to take the Bills to win this. They're going to cover because it's 4 points. I think I can win this one by a touchdown or 10 pretty easily. But like I said, my confidence in that spread is it's not the greatest.
Yeah, if you would have told me that it's only a 3.5 point spread, I'd have looked at you like, huh? It kind of makes sense given certain matchups that you're gonna see this week. So that's probably why. But I think the Bills just overall a more talented team, and Josh Allen, like I said, he's the MVP right now this year, and I don't think there's any slowing him down right now. The Niners host the Bears. The Niners, a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Obviously, the Bears losing Matt Eberflus as their head coach because they fired him this week, literally 2 hours after he had a press conference, which is hilariously, such a Bears thing to do. But the Niners, they're out Christian McCaffrey, I believe, for the rest of the year now, if I'm not mistaken. And they're floundering. Brock Purdy has not been good this year at all, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that he's been without Christian McCaffrey most of the year, and even with Christian McCaffrey in, he hasn't been that great. The Bears, on the other hand, they have a really, really good defense, and they're a couple, not even they're a couple coaching mistakes and a couple just errant throws from Caleb Williams and some just really unfortunate luck away from being they're a 4-8 team. They could easily be an 8-4 team right now. That's how they're a very talented team. I think the Bears are going to get the upset win here over the Niners. I just think the way Brock Purdy has played without Christian McCaffrey, even with Christian McCaffrey, he hasn't been that great. The offense hasn't been good. The defense hasn't been playing well at all. And I think the Bears are very talented. Now that they got rid of the cancer that is Matt Eberflus, I think that's going to help Caleb Williams a lot more this year. So give me the Bears to get the upset win here on the road.
I wouldn't call it much of an upset win at this point. The Niners aren't really that good, and we've seen that. And the Bears, like you said, they nipped the cancer at the bud a few years too late, I would say. But here we are, and now it's a reality we all have to deal with because we now know the Bears are a more dangerous team than were the last time. Because Matt Eberflus is a certified moron, and he's the reason they lost so many of these games, including the Thanksgiving Day game. So I'm also going with the Bears on this one, but I'm not really calling it an upset because I think right now the Bears defense has them in a spot where I would say they're at least on a level with the Niners currently.
Yeah, I think they very well could be. I think the defense is going to win this game for Chicago. I really do, because they do have a good defense. They're not a world beating defense, but they're one of the best in the league. The Chiefs host the Chargers. The Chiefs, a 4-point favorite in this game. The last time these two played was all the way back in week 4. The Chargers losing that game 17-10 at home. But look, the Chargers have been playing really, really well lately. Their defense has been really, really good. The offense has been underwhelming all year, but you kind of expect that. They are down J.K. Dobbins, though, and that's huge for this Chargers team that really, really likes to run the football. So that's going to be a problem for the Chargers. Their defense is going to have to play very, very well. But at the same time, the Chiefs' offense has not looked good at all this year. They're just getting by on fluky shit. The refs have helped them out a ton. And I don't like, saying that a whole lot about just in the NFL in general, that the refs are helped in certain teams, but they've been bailed out off of horrible calls and horrible non-calls all year long. I'm gonna take the Chargers here to get the upset win over the Chiefs. I think the defense will do enough against this, let's face it, not good, bad even, Chiefs offense. It's just, what's the Chargers' game plan going to be offensively to get around this Chiefs defense that is good? I think that's going to be a big key. If Justin Herbert can air it out, I think Chiefs could have a very, very nice day, but they have to figure it out because, again, you're out your star running back for the Chargers, so you have to figure something out to make sure that you could put up points on the board. I expect this game to be low scoring, though. I don't think that 42.5 under or over is going to hit. So, but yeah, give me the Chargers to get the upset win here.
You're a madman, and I absolutely love it. I'm also taking the Chargers to get the win here. I don't like the state the Chiefs' offense is in right now, and like you said, they're winning games on fluky stuff at best. And even when Patrick Mahomes, he's been having, some of his best statistical games the past few games this season. And it's just, you sit there and you wonder, is it going to continue or is he just finally going to break again and he's going to throw another pick and it's going to be the one that breaks the back again and they're going to lose another game? And I think that's going to be the case here. Like you said, the Chargers are out J.K. Dobbins, and that's a big hit. But they also have Gus Edwards, and we know that he's capable of running the ball. And Justin Herbert can throw the ball if he needs to. So I think that's going to be enough for the Chargers to crack the code this time and beat the Chiefs.
And then lastly, Monday Night Football, the Cowboys host the Bengals in the battle of whose defense is worse. Cincy, a 5-point favorite in this game. 5, that is the devil's number. But you're on the road, and you actually have a worse record, so that's kind of an interesting thing here. Here's the thing. Yes, the Bengals defense blows. The Cowboys defense blows. The Cowboys are with Cooper Rush, though, and he ain't even that good. Give me the Bengals to win. Give me the Bengals to cover. I don't see how the Cowboys offense is going to be able to stay in this game. I mean, yes, the Bengals defense stinks. So does the Cowboys defense. But the Bengals have an elite offense. The Cowboys, they don't. So I'm going to take the Bengals to win, and they cover that 5. They just barely cover it.
Yeah, this is the game of who's going to score more, right? Cowboys defense isn't the greatest right now, and they're probably not going to be. And the Bengals offense, Joe Burrow's playing at an MVP pace, but because his team's 4-8, he's not going to get the recognition for that. So I think it's going to come down to Cooper Rush versus Joe Burrow, and we all know who's going to win that battle. So give me the Bengals to win and cover. I think they win this one by a touchdown.
Yeah, I think they win this by a touchdown at the very most. I just think their defense will get at least one stop in this game, and I think one stop is going to be enough to win this game. Expect a very, very high scoring game, at least from Cincy's side. I don't know about Dallas' side, but expect Cincy to go off in this game offensively. So that is going to wrap up your NFL Week 14 uh, review. Or preview, sorry. So now we're going to head on over to some college football. We're going to preview every single conference in the FBS. We're not doing the FCS bullshit. FBS Conference Championship week is this week. And we're going to go through every single conference, not just, the important ones. So let's start it off here. Friday night, we got 3 conference championship games. We have in the Conference USA, we got Jacksonville State versus Western Kentucky. Both these teams come into this game 8-4. Tells you how great the CUSA is. Jacksonville State a 5-point favorite in this game. I've watched some film on both these teams. I mean, they're all right. I mean, again, like I said, they're 8-4 this year. Both these teams. Jacksonville State, I think they have a wide receiver. What's his name? Cam Vaughn. He's been solid this year for Jacksonville State. And what's crazy about it is Jacksonville State, they run the ball a lot, but when they throw the ball, they are really, really, they're really good at it. And this Vaughn kid, if he wasn't playing for Jacksonville State, I feel like that would be his talents could be utilized a lot better with some other teams. I'm gonna roll with Jacksonville State to win here. I just think Western Kentucky, while they are a solid program, they're just, I wouldn't say they're the greatest in their conference, and I think they kind of lucked their way into this conference championship game. So I'm going to roll with Jacksonville State to win and cover that 5.
I mean, you said it. I don't watch much of this at all between, non-Power 5 conferences or, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, Jacksonville State, they seem to be doing pretty good in the post Deion Sanders era. And, normally people aren't comfortable taking a 5-point favorite. I'm going to roll with them. And if they don't win, I'll eat my words. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't really know much about any of these teams. But looking quickly at both of these teams' schedules, I mean, they have the same record. But, I mean, neither of these teams really have impressive wins to me. So it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it is Conference USA. Who really gives a shit, right? There's really 2 Group of 5 conferences that matter, and this one Friday night is probably the one that matters the most. Number 10 Boise State playing against number 20 UNLV. Boise State just a 4-point favorite in this game. Boise almost lost the last time these 2 teams played, which was in the regular season earlier this year. UNLV really dropped the ball in that game. Boise State has not played the greatest, especially the last few weeks. I mean, almost losing to a bad Nevada team. and just scraping by uh, in really the last 3 or 4 games, except for last week against Oregon State. Even though that game was a lot closer than the score would suggest against Oregon State. UNLV, they've been really, really, really good all year. Very solid all-around team, and they obviously deserve to be ranked where they are because they've just played really, really solid football. I'm going to go with UNLV to win this game. I just think Boise State just, they've been scraping by. They almost lost the last time these two teams played, and UNLV's out for blood. And if UNLV wins this, they go to the playoffs, and they want that. So I'm going to go with UNLV to get the upset win here and win the Mountain West.
That would be a hell of a sight, wouldn't it? And it would be really cool to see UNLV get that revenge against Boise State. But I think Ashton Genty and Boise State are just going to do enough to win this game and send them to the playoffs. But at the end of the day, it's going to get them bounced first round. And I feel the same way about UNLV. And, this it's a 4-point spread in favor of Boise. And I think that's respectable. I think UNLV is capable of really playing this one close and very capable of winning it. I just have Boise State as the best running back in the country right now, and if they can stop him, they can win the game. And if not, then give me Boise.
Also, Friday night we got in the American number 24 Army hosting Tulane. Tulane, a 5-point favorite in this game. Army comes into this game 10-1. Their only loss being to Notre Dame. Tulane comes into this game 9-3. So obviously Tulane has played one more game than Army because Army Navy haven't played yet this year, which is really kind of funny because if Army lost this game, they could also go ahead or if they won this game, they could go ahead next week and lose to Navy, but it's not going to matter because they already won the American. So it's a little weird, to where you still have one more game to play after your conference championship game, and it counts as a regular season game. So it's a little weird, right? But Tulane has been solid all year long. Obviously, a bad loss last week to Memphis. But Tulane overall has had a really solid year. I mean, just dominating everyone that they've played. The only, they lost to Kansas State. They almost won that game. Just a couple, small mistakes. They only lose that one by a touchdown. They did get blown out by Oklahoma the week after that, and then they hadn't lost until Memphis last week. I like Tulane a lot. I've watched a lot of their games this year. They are a very, very good team, especially for a group of 5 team. But Army, they've been dump trucking people all year up until they played Notre Dame, where they got dump trucked themselves. This is going to be, I think, a very, very close game. I'm going to take Tulane to win. They don't cover that 5. I think this comes down to a field goal in this game. And I think, honestly, the winner is going to win it off of a last-second field goal. I feel like that's just how this game is going to play out. So, yeah, give me Tulane to win. They just don't cover.
Yeah, I agree on Tulane 100%. They're a good team, and they've been playing very good outside of, that blowout loss to Oklahoma. So you got to give them credit. And like you said, that for a group of a 5 school, they're really good. And if they didn't have, 2 or 3 losses, they might have, been able to compete with UNLV and Boise for that group of 5 representation. But, with the seasons they're having, it's not going to happen. So, and if Army wins this one, are they going to get consideration for the playoff? If it's over a 1-loss Boise, I don't think so. If it's over a 2-loss UNLV or Boise, conference, Boise State losing the conference champion, probably not. UNLV being a 2-loss conference champion is probably getting more consideration over a 1-loss Army who hasn't played Navy yet. So, and if Army does get that nod over UNLV, what happens with the Army Navy game?
Right, and that we don't know. Uh, and if Army wins this game, they and UNLV wins, there's a very good chance Army might sneak into the playoffs instead. But I just don't see it because I think the Mountain West is just a much better conference than the American. But um, I would not be shocked at all to see Army win this game. I just think Tulane is an overall better team, but they aren't that great on run defense. So be on the lookout for that because obviously Army, you know what they do. So moving on, Saturday noon, we got number 15 Arizona State and number 16 Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. Arizona State has been extremely hot really all year long. They played some really good football. Iowa State, they started off the season really well. Haven't been playing that well in the last few weeks. Getting those two losses that they've had, very recently. But they got themselves into the Big 12 championship game, and that's really all that matters. Winner of this game goes to the playoffs. Loser obviously does not because, the Big 12 is basically the Spider-Man meme where it's just like, you're shit. Well, you're shit. Well, you're shit. You're all shit, okay? I'm going to roll with Arizona State. I think they're just an all-around better team. Uh, I think Iowa State, while they are good, they just haven't looked, well put together the last few weeks. So yeah, give me Arizona State to win. They've been one of the most consistent teams in the Big 12 this year. And yeah, so Arizona State win and cover that too.
Yeah, this is a game where we predicted one of these teams, right? I mean, Iowa State, like you said, had a very hot start to the season, and we were joking that they might have been undefeated, barring, them stumbling, and lo and behold, due to some college football chaos, they did stumble, and again, they put themselves in prime position to be upended by not only Colorado, Arizona State, their competitor on the other side, and Kansas State. BYU was also in that mix for a while because they had the same start as Iowa State and had the same exact thing happen. So it's a lot of wackiness for, both of these teams to end up where they are. And one of them we predicted. And I'm still going to roll with Arizona State because, like you said, they're the hotter team right now. And Iowa State was more playing to survive and get to this point and potentially make it to the playoffs and salvage that really good start rather than they want to prove they're the best and they want to prove that they're good enough to make this. So I'm gonna roll with Arizona State and it's a 2-point spread. I think they can win this one by a field goal.
Yeah, I think they'll win this by a touchdown. I just don't have a lot of faith in Iowa State. If they hadn't lost those two games the way that they lost and then just looked shaky since then, I'd probably pick them. But Arizona State, they've just been consistent all year, and I think that's really what's going to matter for them in this game. The MAC championship in good old Detroit, Miami of Ohio playing Ohio. Ohio comes into this game 9-3. Miami comes in 8-4. The last time these two teams played was, I think, week 6. Miami of Ohio won that game 30-20. Obviously, I don't watch a lot of MAC football outside of Eastern Michigan, but that's because Eastern is my MAC team, and they always will be. They were always my dynasty team in the NCAA games. That is my team. That's the only reason why I watch Eastern. But I watched the highlights of the game that they played in the regular season. Miami pretty much dominated that game. I think they kept it close. Ohio kept it close offensively, but defensively, Ohio hasn't been that great. I'm going to roll with Miami. They are a 2-point favorite in this game. I'm going to roll with them to win and cover. I think this one really does come down to a field goal between these two teams. Ohio's out for revenge, but I think Miami just has a little bit more offensive upside in this game. So give me Miami of Ohio to win the MAC.
it's funny because the last time these teams played, Miami of Ohio was favored by 3.5. And now, granted, they've played like half a season, and they played, I think it was like week 7 or week 6, like you said, and it's only a 1.5 point favorite for them. And it was pretty much all Miami of Ohio the last time until the fourth quarter. It was 30-6 heading into the fourth quarter, where Ohio put up 14 points to make it look closer than it really was. So I'm going to take Miami to win this one and win the MAC. But again, I wouldn't be shocked to see Ohio win it just because the MAC is the MAC for a reason. And, they're even worse than the Big 12 and they're tearing themselves apart.
Yeah, I mean the Mac is it's another Spider-Man meme, where it's just like you're shit. Well, you're shit. No, no, you're all shit. Just calm down. But yeah, like you said too, Ohio, late fourth quarter points to come back and make that score a little bit closer than what it really was. Like I said, Miami dominated that game. So yeah. The SEC championship game. Finally, we're getting some actually good conference championships here. Number 2 Texas versus number 5 Georgia. Texas, a 2.5 point favorite in this game. Now, obviously, the last time these two teams played was in October in Texas. And Georgia won that game 30-15. And honestly, Texas was nowhere in that game, to be honest with you. I mean, they had to come back and just put up some sort of points. I believe they got shut out in the first half in that game as well. But since then, Texas has been playing well. Georgia has also been playing very, very well. This is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than it was in the regular season, but I think Georgia will come out on top. I do think they will play closer, I think Texas will play closer in this game, but I just think Georgia, they've been in this spot how many times now in the last few years. And yes, well, Texas, it's their first year in the SEC, the first SEC title game. I just don't see that happening. And I'm high on Texas. I think Texas is a really, really good team. But I just think Georgia, it's also in Atlanta. That's going to give Georgia a huge, huge home field advantage. Even though they are the away team in this game, I just think, Georgia, everything's falling in their place right now. And again, it is also in Atlanta. That's going to be huge for Georgia. So give me Georgia to get the upset win here and be your SEC champion yet again.
That's a very valid point. Georgia's been here before, and obviously Texas, this is the first time in the SEC. And I think that uh, I think Texas has their mind on revenge on this one. They're coming off a big win in College Station against Texas A&M, which, first time of that game in the SEC and first time of that game in forever, and Texas delivered. So I'm going to roll with Texas in this one. I'm looking at this one to probably be the best game of the weekend. Maybe competed by the Big Ten championship, but I'm really paying attention to this one. And I don't think they cover that 2.5. I think they win by 1.
Yeah, I think obviously Georgia, 8 overtimes with Georgia Tech last week doesn't help. But also Georgia getting an extra day of rest between games because obviously Georgia played on Friday night and Texas played Saturday night. So I think that is going to might help Georgia out just a little bit more. But yeah, I think if Texas wins this game, it's not going to be by much. But even, like I said, if Georgia wins this game, it's also not going to be by much. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game for sure. And one of the best, if not the best, games of the weekend. The Sun Belt, Saturday evening, we have Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns, hosting Marshall. Louisiana is 6-point favorite in this game. Louisiana has been very solid all year. They've played some pretty solid games against some solid teams. They did their only losses this year is to Tulane, and that was at home, and then also at home against South Alabama this year. Marshall, one of their losses, notably Ohio State. So I mean, they got blown out in that game. They also lost to Virginia Tech this year, and they also lost on the road against Georgia Southern. I look at this game, and obviously I don't watch Sun Belt football. I'll be honest with you, but um, Louisiana has been one of the top teams in the Sun Belt for the last few years, and Marshall. I mean, they're Marshall. They're always a good team in the Sun Belt as well. But I'm gonna take Louisiana to win here. I think they cover that 6 as well. I think honestly, those Raging Cajuns, man, they're something else. So I'm gonna roll with Louisiana to win and cover that 6.
This is I don't really watch, like you said, I don't watch Belt football at all. It's gonna be an interesting one though, because Louisiana, like you said, is, from what I understand, the premier team the past few years. And so far, looking at their schedule, they're pretty decent. I mean, they held their own for the most part against Tulane. I mean, they lost that one 41-33. So that's a pretty respectable performance, I'd say. But, at the end of the day, it's a couple iffy games, but you have a game against Arkansas State, like, that's a 7-5 team in your conference that you beat 55-19. So it's like they could score points, and then they beat a Power 5 team in Wake Forest. So, you might as well
Yeah,
be
but
in Purdue.
Wake Forest is like a MAC team as well. So
Right. So they have, talent, but it's, a lesser division in the D1 for a reason because, they're just not as talented as the other teams, and that same goes for Marshall. They might have had talent, come from them in the past. We all know one of their alum, but at the end of the day, it's not about who they've had in the past; it's who they have right now. And I'm gonna roll with Louisiana like you are, and I think they can cover that 6, but I wouldn't be shocked if they don't.
all right, so we got two more games here. Both are 8 o'clock games. One here is one I actually might go to because it's here in Indy. Just for shits and giggles, go to that. But which one do you want? Do you want the Big Ten or do you want the ACC to round us off here?
We got to leave the big one you got to leave the home conference for the last one for the
I
ACC.
think you're right. All right, so we got SMU number 8 in the country uh, against number 17 Clemson. Clemson having to backdoor their way, into the ACC championship game, but two of their losses are to are non-conference games. SC obviously last week, and then Georgia in week 1. Conference record they are 9-1, so or 8-1. Sorry. They obviously Clemson really solid team, especially since that loss to Georgia. They had been playing really well, but South Carolina has been great. So that's kind of, I think, why they lost that game. SMU first year in the ACC because nothing screams Atlantic Coast like Dallas, but here we are. SMU a 2-point favorite in this game. SMU has one of the best offenses, I think, in the FBS. I mean, they are just beating up on everyone offensively. Defensively, though, not so great. I believe they are like in the bottom half for defense. I could be mistaken on that. Clemson comes in, obviously, like I said, a very bad start to the year. And then even after that loss to Georgia, their offense wasn't that great, but then it started picking up, and it's been really good up until last week when they faced South Carolina. I think, obviously, the winner of this game goes to the playoffs no matter what. If SMU loses, though, I still think SMU makes the playoff. I really do. I think they are a really, really good team, but where they have them ranked right now makes me think that if they lose this game, they won't make the playoff, which I think is wrong. I think they'd be kind of like in a Florida State situation last year where they get screwed, um, you know. But I think Clemson will win this game. I really do. I think they're just a little bit more tested than SMU has been all year. Um, and I just think they're just all around better team. I wouldn't be surprised to see SMU win this game, though. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be very, very high scoring because I don't have faith in either of these defenses to stop each other. But I think Clemson will just find a way to win this game and get themselves into the ACC championship, or not into the ACC championship, into the playoffs. I think SMU, even if they lose, they should be in the playoffs. They won't because the committee has way too much bias, and you could see that in the rankings already. But yeah, I'm going to roll with Clemson to get the win here and be your ACC champion yet again.
This is my boat race of the weekend, and as much as I'd like to give it to our last game, I think this is the one. And like you said, if SMU loses this game, they shouldn't be out of the playoffs. But because of how the committee has laid things out and how they've dictated that, specifically Alabama, Ole Miss, Miami, and South Carolina, that their arrangement will not be changed. That just fucks over SMU even more. You know, SMU is in the same situation as Miami is currently in now. If they lose, they are now the next team out, and Clemson, obviously, as the ACC winner, will get that auto in to the playoffs. So it's going to be an interesting game. I'm going to roll with SMU to win this one. I think, that it's funny because nothing screams Atlantic Coast Conference like a team from Texas winning. But at the end of the day, I'm more confident in that SMU offense to really get things going. And I think they're going to be able to make that play or two difference to get them into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that are first year in a conference and in the championship, and that's or in the conference championship game in their first year. You got Texas, you got Oregon, who we'll discuss here in a second, and now SMU as well. So very, very interesting that we got three first-year teams in a new conference in the conference championship. And then, so last but not least, I think probably the best game of the week, if it's not, Texas versus Georgia. You got number one Oregon and number three Penn State facing off in the Big Ten championship here in Indianapolis. Like I said, another game. It's a game that I just might go to for shits and giggles because, I mean, it's literally like half an hour away from me. So I might do it. Now, I'm not a fan of either of these teams, so why would I go? But whatever. Oregon comes into this game 3.5-point favorites. They come in with one of the best offenses in the league, or not in the league, but in college football. Penn State comes into this game. People are saying that this team is frauds and they haven't really played anyone. The only real team that they played, they lost to, which was Ohio State. And yes, if you look at it that way, yes. Penn State has one of the best strength of records, and they have, I believe, like the 32nd strength of schedule in college football, which is actually higher than Oregon's, believe it or not, coming into this game. But Oregon obviously has the best strength of record, so there's that for you. James Franklin, everyone wants to talk about, he's terrible in big games, and yeah, he hasn't won a big game. He hasn't won against a top 5 opponent ever in his career. He had a chance to do that earlier this year against Ohio State, and he obviously shat the bed, as he usually does. That said, he is 1-0 in Big Ten Conference Championship games. Obviously, that was 2016 versus number 6 Wisconsin. I believe Penn State was number 8 in 2016 going into that game. Both those teams were 10-2 though. But this time around, Oregon 12-0, Penn State 11-1. I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna make a big, bold prediction here. Penn State will win this game. I think it's gonna be close. I think Penn State's defense is going to keep Oregon in check, and Oregon's defense ain't really that good, and we've seen that all year. I mean, they let up a lot of points, they let up a lot of yards. Penn State's defense is really good. It's going to come down to what can James Franklin do on the offensive side of the ball, and what can he do um, to keep his team in this game. I think the defense will be able to do enough. Drew Aller and James Franklin. That's the key for Penn State to win this game. If Drew Aller plays very well and makes very smart decisions and protects the football, and James Franklin doesn't make stupid coaching mistakes and plays aggressively and gets his offense in positions to score, Penn State will win this game.
I'd say that's a bold claim, but I was kind of considering it at the same time. It's uh, it's reminiscent of the Wisconsin game a little bit. Uh, it's Big Ten territory at night, and it's it's not happening at Penn State, and it's not a whiteout condition. But at the end of the day, Penn State's going to travel, and boy, do they love to make things loud.
And Penn
I'm
State, their fans travel very well, and it's a lot closer than Oregon.
It's 100% true. I'm also going to roll with Penn State. It's going to be a really good game. Like I said, I think it can compete with Georgia Texas as the best game of the weekend. It's just going to be, can Oregon overcome the Penn State defense and the pressure?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big problem. Oregon's defense is going to need to step up in this game big time. And I mean big time, because their defense has not been good. Now, yes, Penn State's offense hasn't been the greatest this year, but when they get going, they can get going, and they can get going bad on you. Yes, this is a bad example, but look at last week. Maryland's ass. Yes, I know, but I mean, they got rolling, and they got rolling really fast last week. Oregon's defense is a lot better than Maryland's, but they ain't that good either. And James Franklin's been in this position before. Oregon has not. I think also too, like I said, Penn State fans, they travel very well. Indianapolis is a lot closer to Pennsylvania than Oregon is, so I expect to see a lot of blue and white out there uh, on Saturday night. I really do. So yeah, so that's gonna be it for us tonight. Obviously, Tuesday we'll be back. We'll talk about everything that happened in the NFL. We'll talk about all the conference championship games as well. And yeah, that's going to really do it for us. Not a whole lot going on in the NHL that's worth talking about, or the NBA. I guess real quick, Alex Ovechkin, 17 days after his leg getting fractured, is already skating. He skated in a no-contact jersey today, which is wild to think about. 17 days after you fracture your leg. So it couldn't have been that bad of a fracture, right?
Why get medical care when you can just pour vodka on it, It's just Russian things.
Like I said, he's built different because, 39 years old, and he's still putting up the goals that he is and playing the way he just hasn't regressed at all, and he's 39 years old. But yeah, so that's about it. He's still not expected to return for a few more weeks, but the fact that he's skating just 17 days after that diagnosis, yeah, that's insane. To just
be like a
think
hairline fracture or something.
yeah,
like that.
it couldn't have been that bad if he's already skating on it 17 weeks later. Not 17 days later. I mean,
17 weeks. Damn, that's the whole season, right?
pretty much. But yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. Rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know what you guys want to see more of course. Follow us on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you want to call it, at the Andrew and Ian Show. Check out our YouTube page as well. Keep just sharing the podcast, guys. We're going to keep on growing this thing. Thank you guys again so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Tuesday.